So, Sundance 2017 was pretty dope. And I'll say that if you're a movie fan of any sort and you're willing to travel across the country to this place with beautiful snowy mountains, yet you're okay with just chilling in a dark room for hours upon hours to see movies that filmmakers have spent their all just to turn into the festival, then you gotta go to Sundance. Granted, the thing is very expensive, and I know that there's a lot of people that think that Sundance isn't open to the public, but it actually is. And maybe I'll make a video talking about the do's and don'ts that I was able to learn on my first trip. But for this video, I just want to cover the top 10 movies that I saw at Sundance. Now, I wasn't able to see everything because you're very limited, and where you can go, and there's all these different places. But I was able to see 21 movies, and I cover all 21 over on my Letterboxd if you want to check them out. But I missed only the ones that I knew were going to come out on Netflix relatively soon, and some actually won awards. The one I regret the most is the Big Sick, so that's not on this list. But also know that just because I may have not liked the movie doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it a watch, because every movie deserves to be watched at least once, and it may end up being one of your favorites of 2017. But these are my top 10 personal picks, but I do want to start it off with 3 honorable mentions, beginning with Rememory, a movie that stars Peter Dinklage in a car accident. It's a murder mystery, and it even has this machine where it can just extract your memories. And while the movie isn't the greatest movie at Sundance, I will say it's one of those where the premise is like way better than the actual movie. There was another movie called Marjorie Prime, also dealt with memory. Both of these movies are not like the best movies at Sundance. Maybe someone liked them a lot, but it's the idea that you can alter your memories, or the idea that, hey, you know what? If we were in an argument and I had this machine that can pull up exactly what happened, I can guarantee that you forgot things on purpose. The movie does end up getting a little cheesy at points, and I think the murder mystery gets kind of obvious at a certain point, but I still think it's worth the watch, because what was the most intriguing part from the audience perspective was that no one was questioning the machine that extracts your memory, because everyone was wondering how Peter Dinklage was driving a random car. And number 12 is Columbus, a movie that's really slow. It's just John Cho, whose dad goes into a coma. He comes back to Columbus, Ohio. He was a famous architect, so Haley Lou Richardson, who I really like, ends up becoming this like protege to him, teaching him the ways of architecture because she loves architecture, and they just hang out, and it's just their relationship. And while it is a very slow movie, it comes from this dude named Kogonada, who is just a film genius. If you haven't seen his video essays, definitely go check him out, because the man has taken everything that he's learned and applied it to this movie. It's hands down the most beautiful shot movie that I saw at Sundance, and the way that it visually tells its story is perfect. But again, it's slow, and I know it may not be for everyone. And the last honorable mention is A Ghost Story. It's been a long time since I've sat in an audience where half of the people were just in awe when the credits rolled and they came out just knowing what love was again, and they were just completely flabbergasted by what they saw on screen, and they were reborn. And then the other half was literally face-palming themselves for having traveled all this way, stood in the cold, just to watch this movie. It is Casey Affleck as a sheet ghost who comes back from the dead after an accident and just pretty much stalks his wife in their house. It's existential. It asks all these questions about time and what we find to be important and our purpose in the world. But there is a shot where it's just 8 minutes, you probably heard this, where Rooney Mara is just chilling and she's eating pie just nonstop for 8 minutes straight. That may be the point where it either makes for you or breaks for you, but again, there's only one way to find out if it's for you, and that's if you check out the movie. But getting into my top 10, I started off with In the Rye, a movie about J.D. Salinger where Nicholas Hoult plays him, and I loved how sarcastic the characters were and how witty they were, and I also loved the quotes that were in the movie, especially because it's not just a biopic about J.D. Salinger and how he came to be, but it's more so the process of creating something and learning rejection and rejection and rejection. And there's a specific quote that's said by Spacey's character, who's the teacher in the movie, where he says, "Stories are so powerful, people actually believe the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran were written by gods." And if you believe in one of those books, then the quote still applies. Granted, I wouldn't say the movie is the Steve Jobs of J.D. Salinger. It's more the Jobs of J.D. Salinger, which means that it's good, but I'm pretty sure someone can make like a more artsy, better film about this guy who is a major influence in American culture. At number 9, there's Mudbound, a movie that I'm pretty sure next Oscar season is going to get a lot of buzz because it's a female black director, it's the subject matter that's covering it, and I do believe that the movie's still great. I just know that some people, being honest here, are going to overlove it because they feel they need to support it, even if they wouldn't watch it again. Now, that doesn't take away from the movie itself. I think it's a very well-crafted movie, and you have Jason Mitchell putting on a fantastic performance. Hedlund also putting on a great performance, and the story of this black veteran who goes off to war, comes back only to realize that no one's respecting him, and he went out there to fight for their lives. However, that's in the second half of the movie. This movie needs to be cut down because the first half is just covering, and I don't have anything against them, but Carey Mulligan and Clark and their life and the struggles of a farmland, and it's like, that ain't the strong points of the movie. I think if they shift it around a bit, if they cut it and make it a little bit tighter, it'll work a lot better because it's actually telling the narrative points from a bunch of characters. One of them being Mary J. Blige, who was so into her role, I didn't realize it was Mary J. Blige until the credits, but definitely check out Mudbound once it comes out. And number 8 is To the Bone, which is pretty much the Breakfast Club for eating disorders, and where you have Lily Collins, who gets even skinnier than she already is, goes to Dr. Keanu, who sends her to this house where all these people have different disorders. She has anorexia, and they get together and try to be better. And what I loved about the movie was the interactions, not only that they have in the house, but with her family in general, because they're very sarcastic to each other. They're very blunt with each other. And the way that they interact with each other, you will be watching the movie and going, you know what? I know someone who's just like that person, and they are just as annoying. The ending to the movie does get a little artsy-fartsy. It starts getting more into her mind games and stuff, but everything that comes beforehand I thought was pretty solid. At number 7 is Crown Heights, which actually won the Audience Dramatic Award, and it tells the true story of this guy who was wrongfully convicted of murder, and it took a long time to get him out. Stanfield's performance, I think, is fantastic. I think it's a lot more subtle than people are making it out to be. He spends most of his time in jail, but it's the guy who plays his brother. Don't want to butcher his name, but this man, some of you may know him as an NFL player. Some of you may know him as Kerry Washington's husband. I know him as a dude who completely bamboozled me, and I had no idea that that was a fake accent. I think the movie starts off pretty slow in the beginning, but in the second half, it really builds up this story of two brothers, one who's in jail and the other one who's willing to stop at nothing to overturn the justice system just to show that his brother was innocent. So it's definitely worth the watch. At number 6, I got Patti Cakes, which is the closest we're ever going to get to an 8 Mile Part 2, and where you have this overweight white girl who lives in this town making ends meet, lives with her grandma and her mom. She wants to be a rapper. And the movie is really dirty because not only is it the town that she lives in, not only is it the things that they wear and the way that it's shot, because it gets all up in their faces, all up in their nooks and crannies, only to then cut away to a really beautiful dolly shot showing you that they can shoot something nice. But it's telling this come-up story that we've seen. A girl wants to leave her town. But it's when they rap that you're going, all right, this is actually pretty legit. I'm not saying that the music is going to get some radio play, but I'm willing to buy that PB&J song the moment it comes out. Getting into the top 5, these are the movies that I want to see day one when they get released. I've already seen them once, but I love them that much, I cannot wait to see them again. So starting off with number 5 is Band-Aid, which stars, is written, and is directed by Zoe Lister-Jones as the counterpart to her husband, who are always fighting. They're always getting into arguments. They're always just bashing each other. And they decide, you know what? What if we take all these arguments and we make them into songs? And they start up a band. And the humor in this movie is top-notch. It's perfect. And you even have Fred Armisen, who has played multiple characters in some Sundance movies as always a side character. And he ends up being like the best part of the movie as well. I think it's definitely worth the watch. Unlike Patti Cakes, where the music was the highlight, I'm not going to say that the music was my favorite part of the movie, but the interaction between the characters and how they're arguing with each other, how they try to hide their sorrows through humor and through laughter and through songs. And even though the movie at the end gets very cliche, you have that moment where a character sits down and explains what a character needs to do. and then it goes the route you think it's going to. I love the characters in this movie, and I love the way that they interacted, and I say definitely check out Band-Aid. Moving on to number 4 is Sidney Hall, which stars Logan Lerman in a sort of J.D. Salinger role. He's a young author, very young author, makes it big, gets all this attention, bad things happen, spirals back down. And this is a movie that I love the way that it was structured, because it's not this straight narrative, it's jumping all over the place. Some people don't like that. I do, and I love how you follow it through the different colors and the way that it looks. But this movie has actually been getting a lot of hate, and that's for the fact that, one, I can agree it should be cut like at least 15 minutes less. I can also agree that trying to make Logan Lerman look anywhere older than 25 is just a joke. But I have heard complaints and where people said that, well, you know what? Logan Lerman becomes an author in high school, and that's fake because I wrote a book in high school, and, well, it wasn't that good, and I didn't become famous. That was actually something that I heard someone say while I was waiting in line, and it made me just go, well, you know what? This is my list, and it's at number 4. Looking at the top 3, these are movies that, as you know as a movie fan, depending on what mood you're in, you're going to prefer one movie over the other. So these 3 can be interchangeable. But number 3 is a movie called Call Me By Your Name that was getting so much hype. It was the last movie that I saw at Sundance, and I'm like, it's not going to live up. It lives up to the hype. It's pretty much just this summer fling that's going on between these two bros. And let me tell you, every straight guy, every straight being, every straight animal, anything that was there was bawling their eyes out by the end of this movie. And I'm not the biggest fan of A Bigger Splash, which is what the director made previously. Armie Hammer is good in the movie. He's charming in the movie. But the guy, the boy in this movie, needs to become, forget the Oscars, this man needs to have everything available to him because his performance was fantastic. And I'm telling you, the music in this movie, the movie in general is haunting. Not because it's a horror, but because it stays with you. The score, the soundtrack that it has, the emotion. Like I said, this kid who's in the movie, the kid's acting through the credits. I know that the LGBT genre has become a genre in and of its own, and out of all the movies that have come out recently, like Carol and even Moonlight, which I think is a fantastic movie, on a first watch basis, Call Me By Your Name takes the cake. I cannot wait to watch it again, and I know that it may be slow and not for everyone, but the emotion that it gets, it don't matter what you are, it's just the way that it covers the summer fling is fantastic. And number 2 is Taylor Sheridan's Wind River, and this dude has been a screenwriter for Sicario. He did last year's Hell and High Water, and this time he's decided, you know what, I like the story so much, I'm gonna direct it. And pretty much you just have Jeremy Renner, who is a hunter. He's not really an FBI agent. Olsen plays the FBI agent. They get together to hunt this person who has been pretty much tracking down girls and then leaving them out in the cold. And after letting it soak for a while, no doubt in my mind that this movie has the best standoff scene since Reservoir Dogs. The second half of this movie is fantastic. It is a very slow first half, and I think, again, it could be cut down, but that second half is so heart-pounding. The action, the suspense, the way he builds up the scenes shows that he's not only good at writing, but the man can direct sequences even better than I think the dinner scene in Sicario or all of Hell and High Water. However, important to note that if you didn't like Blunt's character in Sicario and you thought that she didn't know what she was doing, Olsen's kind of the same in the first half of this movie. But moving on to my number 1 is a movie it's not perfect. It's not the greatest thing that was released at Sundance, but Brigsby Bear is the movie that stuck with me the most because there's points that it makes you laugh throughout. There's points where it makes you smile. There's points where it makes you cry. It's sad. It makes you question why you do the things that you do, how you appreciate the people who are with you, the purpose of movies, the purpose of the things that you grow up with and how it shaped your life, regardless of where those things came from. And I'm not exactly sure what the synopsis for the movie is going to be, but I'll just say that it's this grown man who's in love and infatuated with Brigsby Bear. It's a show that he grew up with, and it's the only thing that he knows now that he's back and reunited with his family. It's produced by The Lonely Island and Phil Lord and Chris Miller. And if you like any of their previous stuff, this movie might as well just be on the top of your 2017 list because I believe you're going to love it as much as I did. And if you're not a fan of their previous stuff, this might be the one that does it for you. Like I said, it's a movie that encaptures every emotion and bottles it up. It's not the perfect movie. It's not the best of Sundance, but I just completely adored this movie and the message that it had to say about just pretty much grabbing your friends, the people closest to you, and working on something that you love. But those were the movies that I was able to catch at Sundance that I enjoyed. I'm curious to know your thoughts or questions on other movies that you were interested in watching for Sundance, movies that you cannot wait until they get released. Maybe you went to Sundance and you have movies that you enjoyed. Definitely let me know down below in the comments section. And until next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you guys later.